But we begin in Madison, Wisconsin, where police are searching for answers in the 323rd school shooting in America this year. All too common, but in this case, also rare, because the suspect was female, 15-year-old Natalie Ruppnow, who went by the name Samantha. Of the 258 school shooters identified this year, only 9 are female, according to the K-12 school shooting database. And today, the details from Madison, as always, are chilling. A teenager opening fire inside a classroom, in this case, during study hall at the Abundant Life Christian School, killing a student and a teacher in front of her classmates, shooting 6 others, then turning the gun on herself. 2 of the injured are still in critical condition, and that raises so many questions, including this one from the chief of police.
How does any 15-year-old get a hold of a gun, or anyone for that matter?
Police are now working with the ATF to trace that gun, having had, in the chief's words, a long conversation with the suspect's parents, who are said to be cooperating. And in the all-too-familiar effort to pin down a motive, police have turned over some online statements to the FBI to determine if they are the real deal, indeed written by the shooter. And this, too, is familiar. The frustration.
We always send prayers. We always send thoughts. And then when are we going to stop doing that? This is not okay. If your kids are at school, they are not okay. If they are at church, they are not okay. If they are outside, elsewhere, they are not okay. Well, where are they going to be safe?
I want to bring in NBC's Kathy Park, who is in Madison, Wisconsin. Also with me, Cedric Alexander, MSNBC senior law enforcement analyst. Kathy, I know we are expecting another police update next hour. What's the very latest we know now?
Chris, good afternoon. So I'm standing in front of the school turned crime scene. This is a small private Christian school attended by 420 students, and they were just days away from being released for their Christmas break. The shooting happened right before 11 a.m. yesterday. The shooter came in, killed, according to authorities, a teenage student as well as a teacher, injured 6 others. 2 of those students are still fighting for their lives in critical condition at this hour. We are anticipating another update later on this afternoon. Perhaps we will get more information on the victims. We also know that 2 others were released overnight. We know that the 15-year-old shooter also died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound as she was being transported to the hospital. A handgun was recovered at the school. Meanwhile, we know that shots were fired, as you mentioned, in a classroom during study hall. This was a group mixed with different grades. A second grader, in fact, is the one who called 911, reporting that there was an active shooter. And coincidentally, Chris, there were officers nearby, roughly 3 miles away, practicing, training for an active shooter, and then this became their reality. They rushed over trying to help. As far as the investigation goes, right now, we don't have a motive at this point. We know they are combing through the shooter's digital footprint leading up to the shooting. There's also an online document that they are reviewing as well. The parents of the shooter are cooperating, we're told. The father was interviewed for an extended period of time yesterday. But once again, another update is imminent. We're standing by for that. But the community, as you can imagine, they are traumatized and they are rallying behind the school. They're planning on holding another vigil later on this evening and making resources available to all those who are affected by this tragedy, Chris.
Kathy Park, thank you for that. Okay, Cedric, we are only in day 2 of this investigation. It seems obviously like they're trying to focus on finding out as much as they can about the shooter. They're going through her electronics. They're checking out these online writings. What do they do? What will help them piece together a motive to tell the story of how we got here?
Well, what they will do, Chris, is go back, certainly talk to friends, families, teachers, any environment this shooter may have been involved in, and there be what oftentimes is referred to and very rarely used as a psychological autopsy. And that is an opportunity to look and see what mental health history it may have been, both physically and mental health. Who was her social supports? What was the family dynamics? et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Does she have a history of mental health illness? Or maybe that's not the case whatsoever. Maybe it just could have been a case of depression that came about as it relates to her being a young teenager that's growing and maturing, and we don't know what relationships may have been like for her over the course of time. But all these variables are going to be very important. And certainly, yes, you want to be able to look at the digital footprint, but what's going to be really important is going to be statements that's going to come from family and friends and school members to try to give some reasoning as to why this young girl was involved in such a tragic event as this. And I think over the next few days we will know more, but here again, we're still very early into this investigation. And I think the chief and his supports there from other agencies really have done a really dynamic job in terms of informing the community and informing the country in regards to how everything is unfolding still daily.
You mentioned how important it is for them to talk to the people who know her best. And as I mentioned, they've spoken to the parents who are said to be cooperating. What questions specifically would you have for them?
Well, I certainly would want to know from the family if there was a history of mental illness. Has anything changed in her behavior over the last number of days or weeks or months that was noticeable to the family? If so, how were they dealt with, if they were dealt with at all? And those are the same questions you also want to ask school officials, her teachers, her counselors, her friends she may have been close to. Was she a loner? Was she a gregarious kind of kid? Did she withdraw all of a sudden from others over a period of time, which may have suggested something could have happened in her relationships with people at school? All these are going to be important questions. And what will happen, Chris, as we answer one question and learn what occurred, of best be able to analyze what we can from that answer, it allows us to ask further questions that might be relevant and so to the a motive of this attack.